Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me again for some more thoughts from the Bible. My name is Becky. I'm a missionary here in this beautiful country of Uganda with Mission Aviation Fellowship. It, it always amazes me how quickly, as humans, we adapt to new things. Even in the midst of a global pandemic where the way that we do things is so different to the way that we've always done things, we still adjust to this new normal relatively quickly. I've always enjoyed, being able to work from home by myself quietly. That's something I've always been quite good at doing, but I managed to adjust to having my husband Dave around a little bit more without too much difficulty. Now I even find that I miss him on the days that he goes to the hangar to work and he's not here working, stealing my desk. This adaptability that we have as humans is pretty powerful, really. This capacity to accept change and to deal with it when it comes. If we didn't have that skill, we would sort of crumple into dust every time something bad happened, every time a change came into our lives. But there is a danger when complacency comes with that change. We get used to something and then we don't want it to change again. We are content where we are. We're comfortable where we are. We don't want things to be different again. We don't want to leave that comfort zone. Even now, though I really miss some of the activities that I could enjoy before lockdown, when I think of everything changing back again or changing to something different again, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I've got used to how things are now. I'm used to this new normal, whatever normal is these days. If you've caught any of my recent videos, you'll know that we've been looking at the lives of a few of the kings of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah that we find out about in the book of Kings and Chronicles in the Bible. And there was one character that I stumbled upon as I was reading through this part of the Bible, and he caught my eye because of this idea of complacency. His name was Asa, and he was a king of the southern kingdom of Judah, the son of Abijah, who we talked about in the video on Monday. And at the start of his reign, Asa was a pretty good king. He was doing well. The Bible tells us in 2 Chronicles chapter 14 that he did what was good and right in the sight of the Lord. He removed altars and idols. He encouraged people to follow after the God of their ancestors. And the kingdom was at peace under him. Or at least it was until one day when Judah's army of about 300,000 people was attacked by a far, far superior force. And this is what Asa said in that moment. "O Lord, no one but you can help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, O Lord our God, for we trust in you alone. It is in your name that we have come against this vast horde. O Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere men prevail against you." Wow, and what a prayer. And there was an astounding victory after this heartfelt moment by Asa where he was just like, we cannot do this without you, God. We need you now more than ever. And the enemy was altogether crushed. The victory ushered in another great time of peace for the kingdom of Judah. It all sounds pretty good, really. And unlike many of the kings that follow after him, Asa never completely turned away from God. In fact, the Bible tells us that Asa's heart was fully committed to the Lord all his life. But despite all of that, this king did become a little bit complacent. In his later years, Israel started to encroach on Judah's territory, and instead of seeking the Lord as he had done in any previous battles, Asa instead paid money to the king of Aram and asked him to come to his defense instead. We're also told that Asa started to brutally oppress some of his people at this time. So what happened? He didn't turn away from God. We know that his heart was still committed to the Lord. The Bible has told us that. He didn't go and worship other gods like Solomon. I think that after years of peace, after years of an easy life, he just got pretty comfortable. He became complacent. He learned to rely on himself. He didn't want things to change. He didn't want another big battle that's uncomfortable. Instead, he wanted to do whatever he could do in his own power to keep things the way they were. He became complacent. When times are tough, when we're in a really hard situation, there's often this real need, isn't there, to absolutely rely on God, because we just cannot cope on our own. We can't do it. We're not strong enough. We don't have the power to overcome that situation that we find ourselves in. But sometimes when everything's going okay, when things are actually pretty good, we're perhaps a little bit more inclined to try and fix our own problems when they come up, to try and just cope with whatever does happen by ourselves. I don't really need God's help here. I can manage this myself. And you know what? We might well be able to. Asa did manage that problem by himself. The battle was prevented. But God wants to be a part of our lives. And when we're so focused on doing it ourselves, on accomplishing it in our own strength, then we miss out on a great part of that relationship with him. Our hearts may still be committed to him, but we're not living in the fullness of the life that he has in store for us. Asa may have solved his problem, but he didn't solve it in the way that God wanted it to be solved. He didn't solve it in the best way. Now, at the start of this pandemic, people turned to God all over the world. There was fear and anguish and uncertainty, and the hope that we find in him was absolutely needed. But now that we're getting used to this new normal, I wonder if we're so quick to call on God. Maybe, maybe not. It's different for each of us. But I encourage you, whether life is hard or whether it feels comfortable right now, don't forget about God. Bring him into whatever you're doing. Complacency is not going to rob you of your salvation, but it can rob you of the riches that we find with an active relationship with Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for joining me here today for these thoughts from the Bible. I'll be back here again on Friday, so please do tune in and like and subscribe and share all these videos so other people can find out about them as well. I'll see you next time.